Today, I want to tell you a story, not about some great hero, nor a fairy tale glittering with triumphs. This is the story of a young man, once known by a name that few would ever want to be called, the King of Lies. I know, stories about liars aren't usually the ones we rush to hear, but sometimes it's exactly these kinds of stories, the ones hidden away, that have the power to touch us the most. And who knows, in this one, you might just find a glimpse of yourself. His name was Hai, an energetic, clever boy, and incredibly good at making things up. At age 7, he could spin an elaborate tale about being kidnapped by aliens and using superpowers to escape. The neighborhood kids would listen, wide-eyed, hanging on his every word. At first, people thought he was just creative, but it didn't stop at stories for fun. Hwai began lying to cover up bad grades, to dodge trouble, and to craft an image of himself as a misunderstood, innocent kid. When he didn't do his homework, he'd say there was a blackout at home. When he came to school late, he'd blame a traffic accident. Once, when his mom caught him sneaking coins from her purse, he calmly said, "I was going to buy you a birthday gift." The lies piled up, so much so that even Hai couldn't remember what was real anymore. And that label, King of Lies, followed him through middle school like a shadow. But do you know what hurts most? Not being scolded, not getting punished. What really hurts is when you finally tell the truth and no one believes you. One time, Hwai was genuinely sick with a fever and had to skip school. But when he returned, his teacher just shook her head and muttered, "Another excuse?" His classmates whispered, "Probably just stayed home to play video games again." Hwai sat there, silent. No protests, no tears, just acceptance. Because deep down, he knew this was the price of losing people's trust. One evening, after a parent-teacher conference filled with disappointment, his mother sat down beside him. She didn't yell. She wasn't angry. She just said one quiet sentence, gentle but sharp as a blade. "I'm not upset because you lied. I'm upset because you still believe that if you showed your true self, no one would love you." That sentence lingered in Hai's mind for a long, long time. It was the first time he asked himself, what if I told the truth and someone actually listened? In high school, Hai attended a life skills workshop, one he had almost skipped. The guest speaker was a man who had once been expelled for gaming addiction, who had almost taken his own life. He stood before hundreds of students and shared his past, not glamorized, not sugarcoated. No one laughed, no one judged. There was only silence and empathy. Sitting in the back of the room, Hwai felt something stir inside. For the first time, he realized truth can be heard, and sometimes it's the scars we carry that truly reach others. That night, Hwai opened a notebook and began writing. He titled it, "The Things I've Done." He listed every lie he had told, every mistake he had made. It wasn't meant for anyone else. It was a confession, just for himself. But he decided one day he would read it aloud. The next week, during a class meeting, Hwai stood up, shaky but determined. He brought his notebook to the front of the class and started reading. Every wrong, every excuse, every apology. The classroom fell silent. No one mocked him. No one smirked. When he reached the last page, he looked up and said, "I'm not sharing this to ask for forgiveness. I'm sharing it because I want to start over." From that day forward, Hwai was no longer the King of Lies. He started a small blog, simple, honest entries about how someone who once lived behind a mask was learning to be real again. One post titled, "Dear Teacher, I'm sorry I stole that essay," went viral among students. People began seeing Hwai not as a liar, but as someone brave enough to own his past. Soon, schools started inviting him to speak. He told his story about the 8th grade scandal, about losing trust, about trying to rebuild. He didn't preach. He didn't pretend. He just told the truth. At one event in Da Nang, after Hui shared his journey, a 7th grade girl rushed to the stage, hugged him tightly, and sobbed. "I lie to my friends all the time, too. I'm scared that if they knew the real me, they'd stop liking me. But you made me want to be honest, just once." In that moment, Hwai realized something powerful. Truth doesn't just heal the speaker, it heals the listener too. Hwai didn't hide his past. He turned it into a book, a collection of blog posts, journal entries, and anonymous letters from others who had been like him. The book was titled, "I Was the Liar." He also launched a project called Tell It True, where anyone, students, adults, parents, could submit stories of their mistakes. Anonymous or named, judgment-free. Within 1 year, the project received over 5,000 confessions from all over the country, from all walks of life. One message read, "I once stole money from my mom. I've never said it out loud, but writing it here made me feel lighter. Today, I'm going to apologize." Why, once dismissed as a compulsive liar, was now a public speaker, a storyteller, not because he had all the answers, but because he had the courage to face his own questions. Someone once asked him, "How did you go from being someone no one could believe to someone who inspires?" Why smiled gently and replied, "Because I got tired of lying to myself." We all make mistakes. Maybe you've lied, maybe you failed, maybe you've hurt someone you care about, but that doesn't mean you're bad forever. What matters is whether you're brave enough to look back, tell the story, and walk forward. You see, honesty doesn't make you weak. Honesty is where real strength begins. This story I dedicate to you, the one struggling between truth and shame, between fear and confession. Try writing down what you've been hiding. Try saying what you've long regretted. Because just like high, you might discover something powerful. Telling the truth may be the bravest thing you'll ever do.